we're not going to achieve whatever we want to achieve in terms of reducing lawlessness on our roads without partnership with our communities. Not only the law, but partnership with the communities, and ensure that our people and road users abide by the law. And the media, we thank you, because some of the incidents we don't know about them. We get to know about them because the media have actually drawn our attention to those activities.
Well, good evening and welcome to Unfiltered on SABC 3 and Channel 404, SABC News Channel 404. I'm your host, Desiree Chowk. It's that time of the year when road deaths in South Africa just spike, and previous grim festive season statistics have been described as a national disaster and a sad indictment on the total disregard road users have for their own and other people's lives on South African roads. What can we do to curb poor road behavior and reduce the number of horrific accidents on our roads? Our social media question for tonight: can harsher jail sentences help deter drunken drivers? Do join us in this discussion on social media using the hashtags at SABC News Online and SABC News Unfiltered. Let's welcome our guests now. The Deputy Minister of Transport, Ms. Dikeledi Magadzi. Thank you so much for making it through this evening.
Thanks for the invite.
We also welcome Leighton Beard, who is the spokesperson for the Automobile Association of South Africa, AA. On the line, we have Matlakala Mutloung, who is the Business Development Executive at Larimar Group. Larimar is a group of companies with interest in the passenger transport, freight transport, as well as vehicle manufacturing. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Susan.
Deputy Minister, let's start with you. A research paper released by Traffic Psychology SA drivers. It came out in November on driving behaviors of South Africans. It was conducted among ordinary drivers and professional drivers. It says there's a correlation between aspects of personality, such as self-discipline, and the number of accidents that are experienced on the road. How disciplined or undisciplined are South African drivers?
South African drivers, there are those who obey the rules and the laws of the road, and there are those who actually really disregard the rules when they are on the road. And when you're driving on the road, you'll see some of them kind of arrogant when they are driving, trying to look at other drivers as if they are the masters of the road. And these are the things that we keep on saying as a department. We need to change our attitude towards road use and change our attitude towards how we work with each other on the road. Let's just take an example of how, particularly in the cities, the taxis will be driving. You're driving behind a taxi, and then there it goes in front of you, it stops, middle of the street, it stops, red robot, it passes. And these are the things which we really challenge, and it is important that we work with everybody so that we can be able to change the behavior and the attitude towards utilization of the roads.
Leighton, does the Automobile Association agree with this Traffic Psychology SA drivers report, and what sort of research have you conducted in this regard in terms of the discipline of South African drivers and their commitment to driving well and following the law on the roads?
Yeah, Desiree, we released a report earlier this year in which we polled a number of people, a lot of people, about how they felt they were as drivers. And the vast majority of drivers believe that they are excellent drivers, and the vast majority of these excellent drivers believe that everybody else are very poor drivers. Now, certainly those statistics can't be borne out. So yes, there is a certain level of driver in this country who believes that they are better than everybody else on the road, and they believe that everybody else on the road is a bad driver. And that's certainly one of the big reasons we have in South Africa for this very poor state of affairs that we have. And I think that the AA was the organization that actually labeled our roads a national disaster. And we stand stand by the fact that we think it is a national
There are some
disaster.
insurance companies that have introduced a tracking system of tracking how well behaved a driver is. How are these being put into the system?
Well, these telemetric systems are obviously intended to provide some sort of a benefit to the driver. So if you drive according to the rules of the road, you will get a financial benefit for doing that, or you'll be able to get less or pay less on your premiums.
So they're not punitive?
They're not punitive, no. So, I mean, at the moment, they certainly are to benefit the driver. But I think we're focusing very much on drivers at the moment and driver behavior. And certainly as the AA, we have for a very long time said that, look, driver behavior in South Africa needs to improve. And we have a number of things that we have suggested that would improve driver behavior. But I think driving all of this is that there is a sense of lawlessness on the roads because there isn't proper enforcement. Driving here, for instance, tonight on the N1 going north, there was a blue light brigade that was pushing vehicles off the road to pass in the emergency lane. What type of example is that setting for other drivers?
As I say, it rots from the head.
Well, this is the problem.
Ms. Mutlong, let's bring you into the conversation. Tell us about your company and what programs you have in terms of encouraging proper driver behavior on the roads.
Well, we've got several interventions that we have introduced. One of them is what somebody in the studio has just spoken about, is to put in cameras inside buses. And basically that is to monitor driver behavior. But more than anything, we want preventative methods. We have now also introduced advanced driving techniques so that drivers are in a position to be able to drive under any road conditions. And now that it's a rainy season, we've also introduced them. There's something called aquaplane, that if it rains and there's a pile of water, if you are not trained in that condition, the likelihood is that you may just lose control. And I think the third part is that we've had a session with the road RTIA, and they've indicated that since 2010, South Africans killed in road crashes can fill FNB Stadium, and that's actually a scary thought.
So, Deputy Minister, when the President launched what was termed to be a revamped Arrive Alive campaign during Transport Month last month, he asked the South African society for a social compact towards improving improving our behavior on the road and helping towards the effort to create a better transport system. Tell us about the infrastructure projects that he talked about, multiple ones that we can go through, and how they are. One was launched by the Transport Minister recently on the N3. How are those benefiting better road usage and better adherence to regulations on the road?
Let me take off from where Madam Mutlong left. Part of the things that we need to do as South Africa is to change our approach towards a driver license, that you can just drive on a surface which is good. Come rainy days, you have never driven on a wet surface or on a sandy road. These are some of the things that need to be infused when you do a driver's license. So that
can we just specifically speak about the infrastructure investment for now?
I'm coming to there. I'm coming to that one. Thanks, Desiree. So these are the things which will be able to assist us so that we can be able to offset some of the challenges. Our roads in South Africa, in terms of designs and engineering, they are very good. It will be here and there where you'll find that the engineering probably needs to be tilted towards something better, but we've got very good roads. The challenge that we are having is obeying the rules of the road.
Yeah. Because
if you drive on a rise of a summit and you are overtaking, let's look at what happened in Limpopo where the 26 children died. It was on a curve, and you just shoot straight instead of following the curve. You can't expect anything less the oncoming car. You're going to have fatalities where you will be able to kill people. But the President has indicated that there are so many roads that are being revamped. I can take the N1 as we enter Polokwane. It is also something that we will be able, the interchange there is excellent. The minister was on the N3 last week. We will be going to Harrismith also to go and showcase what exactly is happening in South Africa. And these are the things that we should be able to appreciate, to say the roads are good. We should be able to look at how best can we comply with the rules of the road, how best can we reduce, because the other thing, speed reduction on the road is one of the things which is highly challenging.
Yeah.
Drinking and driving, jaywalking, particularly in the township, is one of the problems which we are experiencing.
All right, we're talking about next week. There's already the Day of Reconciliation holiday, which already kickstarts the entire Christmas holiday season, and people moving in between different provinces, a lot of traffic on the roads, and talking about traffic safety on the roads. You're watching Unfiltered. I was looking at the Arrive Alive website this evening, and already just today, 8 accidents already reported there, 2 rescue missions, and some of these accidents fatal. Are we doing enough as South Africans to ensure that there's safety on the roads? Join us on the other side of this break.
We believe that the fourth industrial revolution can change things for us.
We can do telemedicine. Now that means that over a long distance or any distance, I don't have to go and visit a doctor. I can actually see the doctor online.
In Africa, we don't have sufficient doctors. In Africa, we don't have sufficient clinics. It actually makes sense.
Wi-Fi and 5G technology formed some part of the conversation that took place right here.
5G, of course, has the advantage of better experience and also the high efficiency when it comes to the cost per bit.
We haven't issued spectrum in the last 10 years. We have 4G today, which we have had to harvest spectrum from other technologies to be able to get 4G, and now it's costing us a lot more money.
Many, if not most, small medium enterprise businesses are making technology their own businesses.
On Network every Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
As the EFF goes to its second National People's Assembly, we speak to their Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, on the international balance of forces.
President Motlanthe once told us that in Free State, at the border of Free State and Lesotho, there is an area where there is no fence. The people go and have their drinks in Free State, and then in the afternoon they go back home. They are not regulated by anything. So what is the need for the border if people already have created a borderless society between South Africa and Lesotho?
North of the Limpopo River, Zimbabwe's governing party ZANU-PF2 heads to a conference. Can the 7,000 delegates come up with solutions to the country's ailing economy?
You are products of the revolution. And for this revolution to continue on the correct line, it requires those who were baptized by fire in the revolution.
And we also look at COP25, the climate change summit currently underway in Spain. That's African Perspective this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central African Time.
You've got to hold law enforcement accountable. We don't have body cameras, but you are the body cameras of our nation. By ensuring that those who break the law and take bribes, undermining the law on our roads, you actually bring them to book. So that is the partnership and the social compact we're actually talking about.
That's the Minister of Transport, Minister Fikile Mbalula. We're continuing our conversation about safety on the roads during this holiday season. Let's take a look at some of the social media interaction that has come through. Nick G1 saying the campaigns have been running literally for years, even decades, but the carnage is worse every year they create awareness, but something isn't working. Right, let's take a look at another tweet. Selailo Makhato saying, no campaign can change the arrogance some drivers have on the road. It's not the lack of knowledge people don't have, it's the lack of common sense. That very same thing we were saying about the drivers. Mr. Piet, before we went on break, we were talking about infrastructure, and I know the automobiles' major focus is on the automobiles themselves. But what are your thoughts about the multiple infrastructure projects that have been announced, the Moloto corridor development, that on a road, a stretch of road for 160 kilometers, the upgrade of the N7 and the N2 and the N3 that the minister announced last week? Are those making any difference in terms of creating proper roads for South African drivers?
It's a very loaded question, and it's got a multiple answer. The fact is that safer roads certainly do play a role. So when you look at a safe system, you're looking at safer roads, you're looking at safer vehicles, and you're looking at safer drivers. And so safer roads obviously play a role in reducing road deaths. But if you don't have safe drivers and you don't have safe cars, then the safe roads are not necessarily going to be the panacea that you want them to be. I think there's a lot of focus on two things: the campaigns that are held around these festive season periods, around Easter, and now again around the end of the year festive season period. And quite honestly, the AA believes that these things need to be running 365 days a year.
Yeah, like every other campaign.
Like every other. It's not going to help if you have an awareness campaign. It needs to be sustained, and it needs to be followed through every single day of the year. And it brings us back to this issue of enforcement.
You don't think driver behavior changes to different seasons of the year?
Well, I mean, the statistics don't bear that out.
Yeah.
You know, our festive season's road death statistics in December and
it's
the
not
half
that
of
much
January,
higher than at any other time of the year.
It's obviously it's higher. I mean, just that period alone accounts for the entire death rate of crashes in Australia. The entire year. So, I mean, absolutely. There is an absolute spike in the number of deaths over this period. But the point I'm making is that you need campaigns that are effective throughout the year, and this comes down again to this issue of enforcement. And we can point fingers at drivers and say drivers need to improve their attitude, and we agree, drivers do need to improve their attitude. But when you have police officers, traffic police officers, on a rainy day in Gauteng checking license discs and the expiries of that, instead of manning traffic lights and instead of checking on roads, then you've got a question, but where are you deploying your resources?
Where are priorities?
Exactly, and that, I think, is the problem. So, yes, do drivers need to change their attitude? Absolutely they need to change their attitude. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Do we need safer roads, and does infrastructure with proper lighting on roads help in dealing with the carnage? Absolutely it does. But when are we going to have the conversation about how are we utilizing our law enforcement resources effectively and properly to ensure that we have campaigns that run all year round and are reducing the 12, 13, 14,000 people who die on our roads every year? Just one more point, Desiree. Road crashes, the cost of crashes in South Africa is 162 billion rand annually. With a B. 162 billion rand. If money was invested in making our roads safer and we reduced that road death fatality, we could reduce that number and use that money for other purposes. We are spending 162 billion rand a year because people are crashing and dying on our roads. Now, again, I want to bring this back. You know, where are we deploying the resources to deal with this? Are we saying to traffic officers, we want 7 cars to drive a blue light brigade in Gauteng? Do we want traffic officers to check for license discs?
The blue lights brigade really touched you on your studio, didn't it?
No, it didn't. No.
Yeah.
I'm speaking about.
Of course, it's fresh in your mind.
No, but we're talking about the human, the drivers, and we're pointing fingers at drivers, and we all agree with that. But at some point, we've got to start pointing those fingers back at ourselves. And road traffic management has got to say, but how are we deploying our traffic law enforcement resources?
Ms. McClung, I'm going to ask you to gather your thoughts around this conversation around infrastructure, and we'll talk about it when we come back from this break.
We don't only show you what's trending, but also travel far and wide to find you hidden gems. We go deep into untapped territories, bringing life in its simplest form. Catch Trains Travel every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
We believe that the fourth industrial revolution can change things for us.
We can do telemedicine. Now that means that over a long distance or any distance, I don't have to go and visit a doctor. I can actually see the doctor online.
In Africa, we don't have sufficient doctors. In Africa, we don't have sufficient clinics. It actually makes sense.
Wi-Fi and 5G technology formed some part of the conversation that took place right here.
5G, of course, has the advantage of better experience and also the high efficiency when it comes to the cost per bed.
We haven't issued spectrum in the last 10 years. We have 4G today, which we have had to harvest spectrum from other technologies to be able to get 4G, and now it's costing us a lot more money.
Many, if not most, small medium enterprise businesses are making technology their own businesses.
On Network every Sunday at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us here on Unfiltered. Before we get back into our conversation, let's take a look at some of your contribution, and we really value the comments you're sending through. Alfie saying the harsher jail terms will do less to stop. The same goes to politicians whose motorcade, what Clayton was talking about, whose motorcade don't obey road rules. They may cause accidents. Last week, a Northwest politician had to use 2 lanes plus emergency lane on N4, and we were forced by traffic officers off the road. Zoisile Msizi is saying the campaign will always fail unless government can find a way to shut down all these driver's license testing stations that are corrupt by selling driver's licenses. The Deputy Minister was alluding to that because some of them are known. Let's get back to our conversation. Deputy Minister, in terms of just today, we heard about another accident on the Moloto Road, a bus having a collision, and we're constantly being told there are improvements being made to this road so that we can make it safer. What's the missing puzzle piece in terms of solving the safety and the efficacy of this road?
The road actually has, they started from the side of Limpopo coming towards Gauteng in Mpumalanga and Limpopo.
60,000 users daily on this road.
And we launched the Gauteng one 2 weeks ago was being launched so that it can also be improved. It has already started in Limpopo, and we hope that is going to really reduce the
have some impact.
Yeah, have some impact. The Gauteng one has just been launched. We're looking forward that it will also be, because that is the stretch which is highly challenged. We are highly challenged in the stretch that comes from Siabuswa coming to Gauteng, and it has been launched. We are anticipating that work will start very soon.
Leighton, we spoke about the drivers. We spoke about the infrastructure. What about going back to drivers and their behavior? Drunken driving. How much is this impacting the level and amount of accidents on the road?
No, huge.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the statistics, 90 to 92% of all the fatal crashes and all the fatalities are as a result of human error. So 5% is because of road conditions, and maybe another 5% is because of environmental conditions such as bad weather. And obviously you'll see it increase in weather like we've had in Gauteng recently. But 90% of all accidents are as a result of human behavior. People drinking and driving, people not obeying the rules of the road, people talking on their cell phones while they're driving. This comes back to this issue of enforcement. Are we enforcing the rules of the road sufficiently in terms of moving violations, not checking these stationary violations such as expired license discs, but are we actually dealing effectively with moving violations? And the statistics unfortunately bear out that we are not. And if you're talking about enforcement, you are looking at a situation where you need to be deploying traffic officials, traffic policemen and women on the road to make sure that these laws are being enforced and that people are seen to be punished because of the infringements.
Ms. Mutlong, let's bring you into the conversation. I was saying about infrastructure. How do you find that South African roads, are they as up to standard in terms of making sure that lives are saved on the roads?
I think South African roads are standard. If we talk about more the corridor in particular, the Deputy Minister mentioned the fact that they opened it a few weeks ago. It's true. And that road has really been enhanced. But it travels, there's about 600 buses, just Patco buses in and around that area along the Miloto corridor. There are trucks as well. And today you spoke about the accident that happened, and unfortunately 3 lives were lost. And because right now it has been improved, it's a dual carriageway. The driver behavior is still a big problem because the truck today veered off the road and oncoming traffic and then hit the bus head on.
Yeah.
And I think later when they asked the driver of the truck what happened, he said he wasn't even aware. So that's around 4:45 in the morning. So he was probably fast asleep. But it doesn't have correct lighting.
Okay, Ms. McClone, we're not having a proper sound coming out from you. We're going to try to fix that. But for now, let's say goodbye to our SABC3 viewers. If you'd like to continue with this conversation, join us on the SABC News channel 404 on DSTV.
Our job as the SA Today team doesn't simply start when the cameras start to roll. We also work tirelessly behind the scenes to keep you up to date with stories of the day.
What have you established as an organization, or rather as an association, regarding this WhatsApp group Stokvel?
If you look at the WhatsApp Stokvels, people join irrespective of whether they know each other or not. So the person joining is faceless. The one recruiting is also faceless. It's a disaster.
Watch SA Today every day from 3 p.m.
We don't only show you what's trending, but also travel far and wide to find you hidden gems. We go deep into untapped territories, bringing life in its simplest form. Catch Trends Travel every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
I think each and every one of us has got a responsibility. Just by stopping at the stop street, just by making sure that we keep to the speed limit, just by making sure that we abide and obey the laws.
Us as the individuals driving on this highway, we need to obey the rules and not drink and drive, try and stay alive and awake.
Well, this is an active participation in trying to solve the problem. If there's nothing done, or if we carry on the way we are now, then the problem is not being solved at all. That's how we got to the statistics. So I think it is a good thing, yes.
We're talking about that important conversation of ensuring that we promote safety on the roads and ensure that rules are obeyed. A tweet has come through from 65. That's what we're going to call them. The problem I have is that campaigns are only done at this time of the year. Traffic officials are nowhere to be seen during the year. Roadblocks are not a solution to curb it. Visibility of traffic officials on the urban roads needs to increase daily. Another one saying you can't change a person who does not want to change. Deputy Minister, let's bring you back again here. You've seen the tweets. What are your thoughts about people feeling despondent, saying that these campaigns are not working? And something Leighton was mentioning earlier, to say the traffic officials, their priorities are not in the right place.
The minister, together with RTMC, are in a process of making sure that the traffic officers work 24/7, which actually there's still final. The minister is finalizing that. But
there's such a project underway.
Yes, there is such a project that we will have traffic officers.
Do you have timelines for us?
Throughout the day, I wouldn't safely say I remember from the head the timelines, but it is there. And the other project is that there's addition. There's training which is happening in Valmarsdal, which actually will be able to add on to the number of the officials that will be there on the road. But what becomes very critical is that we need to have a social compact, work with the community so that we are able to deal with these challenges. For the past 3 months or so, I've been doing community road safety programs in rural schools, where you also have to deal with, teach the learners to do campaigns at school and stuff like that. And I think it's very, very important that we should be able to, we should teach our children while they are still very, very young to understand issues of road safety, understand the importance of why we should be able to have road safety on the road and be able to obey the rules of the road.
Yeah, we have a graphic up there talking about the number of fatalities during the 2018-2019 festive season. Per road user group, drivers 24%, fatalities, passengers 39%, pedestrians 36%, and cyclists 1%. Interesting statistics to be looking at there. But let's bring Ms. Motlong back into the conversation. You were talking earlier about the amount of buses and trucks that have to compete for road usage on the Moloto corridor development. That traffic psychology report that we were talking about earlier, saying that professional bus drivers reported being more conscientious, agreeable, having higher personal energy, being more sociable, and being more adventurous than ordinary drivers. What kind of insights do you have in this space of road users, professional drivers on the road? Ms. Motlong, do we still have you on the line? Okay, we're going to try to reconnect with her. But Leighton, let's continue on this tack about professional drivers. How do they differ from ordinary drivers?
Look, I think you'll find a lot of the drivers of the trucks and the buses certainly have got professional driving permits, PRDPs, and these people obviously are trained and they drive for a living.
And those are rigidly regulated.
And those are rigidly regulated. So you would find that a lot of times these drivers, as you said, they are conscientious and they do obey the rules of the road, and they're very concerned about being fined or losing those licenses because it is their livelihood. I think when we look at people,
but it is very drivers sometimes when we speak, especially about truck drivers, who will report on stress and fatigue over long distances.
100%. I mean, you will find, I'm talking in very general terms, but you will find obviously amongst these drivers, you will find drivers who do push the envelope in terms of the numbers of hours that they're going to be spending on the road, who do overtake recklessly because they want to get to their destination quicker, because it just means they can pick up another load and then do the return journey for more money. So you will obviously find people like that in that in that profession. I think it stands to reason that you will, because it's a very big industry in South Africa. I mean, we're very road freight reliant in South Africa.
Yep.
But I think on the whole, there are a lot of excellent drivers in our country, a lot of excellent bus drivers, a lot of excellent truck drivers, and they need to be given the credit for that. We've also got a lot of excellent, just normal everyday drivers on our roads, people who do obey the rules of the road. Taxi drivers, some of them also do obey the rules of the road. Not all of them, obviously.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, but some of them do obey the rules of the road. Again, I think it's a question of, there are a lot, unfortunately, of bad apples on the road, people who just just don't care about the rules of the road, and those are the people that we need to be taking off the road, fining, and making sure that we don't share the road with them. And it comes again, and I know I sound like a broken record, we've got to throw resources at this. I'm very encouraged by the Deputy Minister who said that we're looking at a 24/7 deployment of traffic officials.
That is very encouraging.
There was a recent report by the Traffic Law Enforcement Review Committee that suggested we need to professionalise traffic law enforcement in the country. We need to have double the amount of law enforcers in the country. We're spending 162 billion rand on cost of crashes in our country. If we could reduce that number, we could double the amount of traffic law enforcers in our country. Are we looking at doing that? Where is the urgency? We need this to happen immediately. We're losing 14,000 people a year on our roads. It's costing us a fortune. We need to be throwing money at this problem in terms of how do we resolve getting more traffic officers out there.
How's government collaborating with AA in terms of taking advantage of the knowledge base that you have, the historic knowledge base?
So, I mean, obviously we have met with the minister. We met the minister in regards to e-tolls. Certainly, we make submissions on various issues regarding road safety and traffic legislation. And I must say, we do enjoy.
Is he open to your discussions?
Absolutely, he's open, and I think as a department, we are always very buoyed by the fact that we can submit, and we do have discussions, and we do make submissions. I think when it comes to some of the issues, there is a need for urgency, and I think
hear you talking about some of the issues, but you picked up on one that's quite a contentious one, the e-tolls issue. What are the discussions? What are the outcomes of those discussions there?
Look, we made submissions to the minister to inform him of a research report that we did indicating that motorists in Gauteng would not, under any circumstances, pay their e-tolls. Compliance rates are very low and will only get lower if the system continues. We made that submission to the minister. We had a very frank discussion with him. I must say we were very happy with the discussion we had with him. He was very open to the stuff that we had discussed with him, and now we're waiting for the outcome from Cabinet in terms of which way e-tolls will be going. But the fact that we were given an audience, I think for us was really important.
It's a step
and we appreciated that from the minister. Yes, so I mean, there's no qualms there at all. I think when we're looking at these issues of road safety, I think it's something that we at the moment in the AA believe is really urgent and needs immediate attention. And we are not of the opinion that the campaigns that are held, seasonal campaigns, are going to resolve this issue. Something more intensive, more urgent needs to happen to reduce this number. Otherwise, we're going to lose another 135,000 people on our roads, as we have done in the past decade.
Although Arrive Alive is seasonal, and Deputy Minister, we were talking at the beginning of the conversation about how the launch of this year's campaign was in October, but let's just revisit its priorities and how you're rolling it out.
Desiree, I think when you look at the way things are being done now, you would see that the minister is almost on a weekly basis out, particularly on the campaigns on the roads. We are almost on a weekly basis trying to work and conscientize people so that we can be able to challenge these fatalities that are there on the road. And I think if we continue the way in the past 4 months we have been doing things, probably we'll be able to have spin-offs that will be able to assist in terms of the fatalities that are there. Mr. Baird is talking about the 162 billion that is there, that you can be able to, it's palpable, but you haven't even spoken about people who eventually become disabled, people who will go to hospital.
That's when you're talking about the cost of these accidents.
It goes beyond the fatalities there, and these are the things that we should talk about to say, how do we deal with this so that we can be able to have that money doing something better.
All right, let's take a look at this graphic, fatalities per road user. This is in terms of distribution. All right, male 73%, female 24%, and 4% unknown. Let's just interrogate this graphic. Do we know why the gender discrepancy that exists here? Because it's quite a huge one. Do we know why, Leighton? Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the research that we've done, we found that male drivers were more aggressive. I think you're finding a lot more male drivers who are driving, things like taxis, for instance.
Where there are fewer female taxi drivers.
Fewer female taxi drivers. I think we'd need to interrogate these figures a little bit more. But at the same time, when you look at the figures for passengers and you compare it to this graph, you would need to interrogate that a bit more.
How does information like this, Deputy Minister, help you in rolling out your Arrive Alive campaigns for this year?
These statistics really helps a lot, because when you look at it's from the RTMC. We analyze the statistics and we're able to say, how do we deal with this thing? How do we deal with this type of challenges?
Yeah.
What are the systems and the improving on the campaign? Because a lot of people are saying this campaign has been there for decades and they don't see the impact on this. But looking at the statistics and looking at how we are improving things, we believe we will be able to improve the whole situation as you see it. But further, when you look at it, many people who are employed, who will be using taxis or buses, are males. And therefore, that is why you have this high a number in terms of the fatalities that are there, which impact on men as compared to the number.
So the gender equalities that exist in our societies are extending to such situations as well. Said, but true.
It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah. You were talking about the RTMC. Let's talk about the different agencies that help the Transport Department, the RAF, the work of ARTO, in terms of helping you dispense your work. Are they churning out quality research to help you make decisions?
Definitely they are, because when you look at the statistics that comes from RTMC, it means Road Accident Fund also has got some other statistics that we can be able to use. Road Traffic Infringement Agency, it's mainly on the regulatory side, and therefore when you look at ARTO, how it should be operationalized, you will be looking at regulatory aspects of road traffic infringement.
And you're satisfied with their work? As opposed to the work of external agencies such as the Automobile Association?
No, we're working with everybody that we can be able to work. That is why we keep on impressing upon social compact. We need to work with AA. We need to work with everybody. That can be, at the end, it's not about the department, but it's about the society of South Africa in total.
Let's take a break. We'll be back in a moment to finish up this conversation about safety on South African roads during the holiday season. Stay with us.
As the EFF goes to its second National People's Assembly, we speak to their Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, on the international balance of forces.
President Motlanthe once told us that in Free State, at the border of Free State and Lesotho, there is an area where there is no fence. The people go and have their drinks in Free State, and then in the afternoon they go back home. They are not regulated by anything. So what is the need for the border if people already have created a borderless society between South Africa and Lesotho?
North of the Limpopo River, Zimbabwe's governing party ZANU-PF2 heads to a conference. Can the 7,000 delegates come up with solutions to the country's ailing economy?
You are products of the revolution. And for this revolution to continue on the correct line, it requires those who were baptized by fire in the revolution.
And we also look at COP25, the climate change summit currently underway in Spain. That's African Perspective this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central African Time.
Welcome back to our conversation about road safety. The Deputy Minister was talking earlier about the Road Accident Fund. They've released something that talks about road users having different journeys, different destinations and different ways of using the road. However, the objective of using the road is the same: to reach our destinations safely and meet the people we intend to meet at the end of the journey. And this is where we're wondering, what are your holiday plans? And as you make those plans, are you incorporating your driving plans so that you arrive at your destination? Let's take a look at a tweet from Nihi Lebu saying they're failing because they only start the campaign on festive season instead of operating and focusing on it every day. Leighton was saying that, so they can't solve road accidents in 60 days. Arrive Alive is a waste. They must just leave SAPs and traffic cops to do roadblocks and some random police operations. You see, people feel differently. Some people are saying that the roadblocks don't work, and Nihi Lebu here is saying bring the traffic, the roadblocks. Let's look at another one. Oh, I don't think this is a tweet. This is our Facebook contribution. Lekhasa Batlamolo saying, hello, my lovely team and viewers. Arrive Alive is trying to curb carnage, but we don't have proper roads around South Africa, especially Moloto and Zebediela. And this is from Lekhasa Batlamolo. Minister, the sentiment keeps coming up, Deputy Minister, over and over again that these campaigns are ineffective. What kind of conversations are you conducting within the department about making sure that there's some sort of measured result?
There's conversations which are taking place in the department and conversations that are taking place externally to make sure that we don't cage ourselves in terms of what we believe is right for the South African, but we make sure that as we develop strategies, as we work on road safety programs, we always infuse and include some of the things that the communities will be saying. We like I indicated, in the past 4 months, we've been going to schools, having campaigns in schools, and we make sure that we work with everybody that we can be able to lay our hands. As it is now, there are bikers who are traveling throughout South Africa who are doing road safety campaign. The minister went to Discovery. We work with everybody to make sure that what we are thinking and what we are doing is not something that is from within, but it's something that is accepted by the community of the Republic of South Africa. And we welcome any other inputs. People are saying Arrive Alive is not effective. We would really appreciate if they can be able to say, these are the other ideas that we're having in terms of Arrive Alive, so that we're able to improve it.
We've spent a considerable amount of time in our conversation talking about road traffic users. What are the latest numbers? What's the latest information we've got in terms of people who fly to their holiday destinations, in terms of people who use water transport, for argument's sake, and in terms of people who use rail transport?
Let me say that the other bigger number is rail transport, and we're also trying to deal with the challenges that are there in Prasa. Shosholoza Mail, which actually many people use as they go to their own destination, is one of the other things that we're doing. In terms of flying, nowadays South Africans, when they go on holiday, they really fly. What we have found wanting is on maritime issues, that people will use ships to go on a cruise and stuff like that. You don't have
statistics there.
I don't have proper statistics, but there's few who will go on holiday destination cruise, maybe from Durban to Cape Town, maybe from Durban to Mozambique and the eastern side of the country. But these are the things that we have to popularize for our people to can be able to know. Other means of transport can be able to be utilized, and we are able to arrive at our destinations safe and alive.
So you just touched on Prasa. It's one of the big stories, particularly today. It's one of those contributors to the national conversation about the breakdown of SOEs. The minister announcing today that PRASA the board is dismantled, it's put under administration. What's happening at PRASA, Deputy Minister?
The board of PRASA has been dismantled. We've got an administrator, Mr. Mpondo, who will be able to be the board and the executive at the same time to make sure that the urgent things that we would like to see happen in PRASA are happening, and to make sure that he brings stability into PRASA, because if you've got an entity which has got wasteful expenditure to billions, then it means there are problems. If you've got an entity that 5 years ago was unqualified and now you've got a disclaimer, you can't allow...
What went wrong with the board of Khanyisile Kweyama?
I wouldn't put my finger on the pulse as to what really went wrong, but something went wrong because we've got a disclaimer now. We go to the Public Accounts Committee. The board has had 12 meetings, no minutes. There is something wrong there. And you can't sit as a board and don't have minutes and want to blame it to somebody else.
Why has that been allowed to go on? Isn't the minister supposed to get updates, regular updates, in terms of these board meetings?
The shareholder compact that we are having, you need to account to the minister on an annual basis. And when they were doing their work, I would say that the accounting, when it arrived, that is where we saw that there are challenges. You have procurement systems which have really broken down, and you can't...
These are non-existent.
Non-existent, exactly. And you can't be able to say people can continue like that, because it is the taxpayers' money that is being utilized. But critical, Desiree, you can't have a situation where CAPEX, capital expenditure, is not being utilized. You've got trains that are broken, pairways that are not functional, signaling which actually every now and then those Izinyoka will come and harvest the copper wires, and you don't change the strategy.
Leighton, although you are separate from the public delivery system, how does the breakdown in governance affect your work as AA and other like bodies?
Look, I think it's very important that one of the things that we talk about is that there is a need for efficient, reliable public transport in South Africa. And when that public transport isn't available, then certainly it does impact on mobility in South Africa. So certainly I think there are huge amounts of people in our country who are reliant on the government to provide a certain level of public transport for them to get to and from their work, or to even go look for work, to help them, with their children. And so in the absence of
multiple uses of transport.
Absolutely, absolutely multiple. I mean, we've seen, for instance, one of the highest road user group in terms of fatalities are pedestrians. Public
transport,
Yeah, and so pedestrians, obviously we would like to see more pedestrians taken off the road and using public transport. But when public transport is unaffordable, and when public transport is unreliable and inefficient, then people cannot use that. So it can be, reliable and efficient, but if it costs more than what many people make in a week, then obviously they're not going to be using that. So it certainly is an issue for the AA. I mean, we would really like to see more efficient, reliable, affordable public transport.
Okay, we have minimal time left. Deputy Minister, just a quick one in terms of speaking to our viewers about what they can do to ensure that they're safe on South African roads during this festive season.
I would urge our viewers to work with us, abide by the rules of the road, make sure that they obey the speed limit, they don't go to the road once they have been indulging, and make sure that whenever they see something that is wrong, there's toll-free numbers that they can be able to call and conscientize our law enforcement agencies that there is something that is not right here on the road. And happy festive season to all our viewers.
So a conscious and involved driver society in South Africa. Leighton, the AA, does it dish out some tips in terms of how to survive this period in terms of being on the road?
We'll always dish out tips. I think obviously make sure your car's in a good condition. If you're going on a long journey, make sure your tyres are in a good condition. Obey the rules of the road.
And when you say the car should be in a good condition, people think take it to the mechanic or something. What are the things I can do as a layman, as a layperson?
Make sure
what are the things I can check?
Make sure your tyres are in a good condition. That's something you can check very simply. And if they aren't, then replace them, or get them checked out. Make sure that everything that should be working in your car is working. Are your lights
maintenance
working?
Up to standard?
Absolutely. Make sure that your seatbelts are working. If you've got children, make sure you've got a proper child restraint. It's the law. If you've got a child that's 3 or younger, they need to be in a car seat. So make sure that everybody in the car is wearing a seatbelt. Some of the things that you can do: obey the rules of the road. Don't be a reckless driver and overtake on solid white lines. Get to your destination safely and get home safely as well. Plan your route. Be courteous to other drivers and just be safe out there.
This report that I kept referring to kept talking about driver energy. Is that important?
Absolutely, it's important. I mean, drivers need to have an energy, not only physically but mentally as well. So if you're going to be on the road for a long period of time, please take a break every 200 kilometers or 2 hours, but be mentally prepared to drive. Don't just think, I'm going to wake up, get in my car and off I go. You need to prepare yourself mentally and understand you will be sharing the road with other road users. So don't expect you're going to have a clean run from wherever you live to your holiday destination. You will be sharing the road. And make the trip part of your journey. Make the journey part of your holiday, and enjoy the road and be courteous.
Leighton Pieris from the Automobile Association, and we're also very honored to have the Deputy Minister of Transport, Dikeledi Magadzi, was also talking to Matlakala Mutloung, whose contact we lost from the Larimar group. We were running that poll asking you, are Arrive Alive campaigns failing to curb carnage on our roads? 81% of you agree and 19% say no. Thank you so much for your contributions this evening to this conversation. And as the Deputy Minister said, we wish you a happy holiday season. Goodbye till next time.